All right. Well, welcome everyone. Annie Pocklington here. I work for the Washington Student Achievement Council, which oversees Washington State Gear Up Grant at your school. I'm excited to be here with you today to host another virtual campus visit. Today, Kelsey Mark is here with us to talk about the University of Washington. So before we dive in, a few quick housekeeping needs. If you haven't already, please turn off your camera. We also need you to change your name for attendance purposes. So go ahead and use your first and last name, as well as your high school name or your high school initials. You can see my example on the screen here, Annie Pocklington, Capital High School. That just helps us with attendance needs. You are muted for recording purposes, so if you have a question, go ahead and write it in the chat and we will get to it at the end of the presentation. If we don't get to your question today or something comes up after this session, please reach out to our guests or to myself so we can assist you. So the purpose of a college visit is really to see how it fits your needs as an individual, and virtual visits are no different. We have so many awesome institutions in Washington State, and they all provide different things for different students. So make sure that as we go through this visit today, you're thinking of yourself first. You'll want to think about what you might be interested in studying, what you'd want your daily life to look like, what housing options are available, and the availability of jobs on or around campus if that's something you're looking for. It's also always important to think about the cost, which doesn't just mean the sticker price, but it also includes looking into your financial aid opportunities. Please visit the Gear Up website for a guided reflection activities or take notes on your own today. This virtual visit is one of many available to you. You can find virtual visit recordings and future virtual visit dates on our website. I also recommend using this interactive map by WACAN, which allows you to explore technical schools, two-year colleges, and four-year colleges across the state. I will drop both of these links in the chat once I pass things off to Kelsey. But before I do that, I'd like to give you a big picture overview of the University of Washington so you can begin situating yourself in your reflection. UW is located on the west side of the state in Seattle, Washington. It's a little over an hour from Olympia and about 4.5 hours from Spokane. UW is a public four-year university, and it's also what we consider a very large institution with over 10,000 students. In fact, it has closer to 20,000 students. So now that you know the basics, I'm going to pass it off to Kelsey, who can give you a more detailed look at the University of Washington.
Thank you, and thank you for having me be here today. I am going to share my screen. Hopefully you all can see that PowerPoint presentation right now. And I, again, am an admissions counselor at the University of Washington, and going over some brief information today about the UW as well as the application process. So I do have a quick video. I hope this works. I will say I am still learning all of the technology of Zoom, so I'm not sure if the sound will work, but let me see if I can get that to work as well. Maybe not. Maybe we'll skip this video, but I can send that to you all in a link as well. So I apologize we won't be able to see the video, but I can send that link to you all afterwards. But here's a few facts about the University of Washington at a glance. So as mentioned before, we are located in Seattle, Washington. We're about 10 to 15 minutes north of that downtown area. So still definitely a part of the city, but a little bit outside of that main downtown area. We do offer over 180 different majors, and I'll be discussing majors in just a few slides a little bit more deeply. And then we are a top federally funded research institution. So just under about 9,000 of our students are doing some type of research at any given point of the year. We have research being done on our campus with our faculty and staff, as well as across the globe and internationally. We have over 1,000 different student clubs. One thing that we really want students to make sure that they have the ability to do is find and build community on our campus. So we actually have over 31,000 undergrads, close to about 45,000 total students on our campus. So making sure students find community is a really important aspect to that success at the UW. So student clubs are a great way to get involved. Also, about 70% of our freshmen do live on campus. Now, we don't have a living on campus requirement, but again, you can see here a majority of our freshmen are living in our residence halls. And we do also have Greek life if students want to explore that option, as well as a good number of students who also commute from the greater Seattle area. Our retention rate is quite high, 94%. So of freshmen who start at the UW their freshman year, 94% of them will come back and continue their education for their sophomore year. So really trying to make sure that students feel supported and have the resources in order to be successful at the UW. And then you can see here our average graduation time is about 4 years. So really, again, trying to make sure that students are coming in, getting that great college experience and getting out in an appropriate amount of time. And thinking about where our students are ending up after graduation. This is a number of our top employers, both in and around the Seattle area, that our students are finding jobs and careers out once they leave our campus. We do also have an extensive career and internship center available to current UW students, as well as available to students up to 2 years after graduation as well. We have about 58% of our students participate in some type of internship position while in undergrad. About 74% of our students are employed within 6 months after graduation. 83% of those students are in career-related fields, and we have about 19% of students who go on to continue their education. And with those students who might be considering going into maybe medical school, physical therapy, we do have a pre-health advising track. For students who may be considering law school, we do have a pre-law track as well. So again, really trying to make sure that students who are coming to UW are having experiences that are not only going to make them hireable, but desirable candidates in any of those future plans. Now, I did mention we have over 180 different majors. There are a couple different types of majors that we offer at the UW. We have 3 different types: open, minimum requirements, and capacity constrained. Open majors are those that have enough space to accommodate all students who are interested. So students can go in and declare that as early as their freshman year. Minimum requirement majors are those that have specific entrance requirements that could be in the form of coursework or an audition or a portfolio review. Once students have completed those minimum requirements, they'll be able to declare that as their major. And then we do also have capacity constrained majors, which are majors that have usually specific prerequisites or additional requirements, as well as an internal application or screening process. Different capacity constrained majors have different prerequisites, different requirements, as well as different acceptance rates. So for example, biology is one of our capacity constrained majors. It's one of our largest programs, and they have about a 90% acceptance rate into that program. For another capacity constrained major like nursing, it is again another popular program, but they only have about a 15% acceptance rate into the program. So it really does vary. We really try to encourage students to do a little bit more research and see what majors they might be interested in. Now, there are a couple majors that we do, I do want to make note of, and these are majors that we admit a majority of our class, freshmen direct. So for computer science, computer engineering, and any of our other engineering majors, students will need to list these as their first choice if they want to be considered for that direct admission. So again, these are majors that we admit a majority of the class freshmen direct. So if they're not admitted as a freshman, it will be highly unlikely for them to come to the UW and apply into those programs later on. So again, those majors are computer science, computer engineering, and any of our other engineering majors. So if you have students who are interested in them, we encourage them and strongly suggest that they list that as their first choice so they can be considered for that major consideration. Now, for students who are interested in applying to the UW, here's the application process. The UW is on the Coalition application. If you're not familiar with that, of course, it's the online application platform that students can apply to multiple schools. We will need students to complete both the Coalition profile, where we get a lot of that general information. The Coalition profile does also include the 9th through 11th grade coursework section, as well as that 12th grade coursework section. Since we don't require transcripts at the time of their application, we do want students to fill in that course grade so we have a picture of their academics. The other important components of that are, of course, the activities log, honors and distinctions section, and again, a lot of that personal general information. The other 20%, so 80% is the profile, 20% is the UW specific questions. Those open up September 1st of a student's senior year. So they're open right now for all of our current seniors. That's where we do house questions about intended major. That's also where our essay questions are housed. And then if they are interested in applying to the interdisciplinary honors program, there'll be some additional questions found in that portal. Now, some of you may have encountered that the Coalition has a profile piece in the, has an essay component in that profile piece. The UW does not import that section. So it's really important if students are planning on applying to UW, they do put their essay responses in those UW specific questions portion. Once students have completed the Coalition profile, they finish their UW questions, they're ready to hit submit. We do have an application fee. It is $80. However, we have application fee waivers available, and those are going to be based off of questions embedded within the application. So if a student is qualified for free and reduced lunch or a NACAC waiver, they will most likely also qualify for an application fee waiver as well. Now, historically, the University of Washington has required official SAT or ACT test scores. Some of you may have already heard, but for fall 2021 class and beyond, we are no longer requiring test scores. So students are welcome to send them if they would like. However, if they don't want to or don't have test scores to send, they will not be disadvantaged in the application review process. So again, you can assure students if they have test scores and want to send them, or they don't, or even have a low test scores, they won't be disadvantaged in that application review process. Now at the UW, once we have received those applications, all of them go through a holistic review. So looking at all of the components within the application, we do break up our holistic review in two sections, the academic preparation and performance, and then the personal achievements and characteristics. Within that academic preparation and performance, we are looking at a multitude of factors, of course, looking at the overall academic performance, but we're also taking a look at how they're getting to that final GPA or those final grades. So seeing what types of classes they're taking, making sure they're meeting the minimum CATER requirements, those college academic distribution requirements, and oftentimes we like to see students exceeding those minimums. We're looking at the rigor of their curriculum, whether that's taking AP classes, IB, Cambridge, college in the high school, Running Start, other dual enrollment programs. We do like to see students who are challenging themselves academically. We are looking at the senior year schedule. Now, even though we aren't necessarily having grades for those at the time, we are going to be taking a look at what classes they are choosing to take. So I'm really wanting to see strong, about 4 core subjects in that senior year. And then, of course, looking at the overall GPA, and of course, grade trend as well. Now, I do want to mention that we do look at all applications on an unweighted 4.0 scale. We realize that for most of the schools in Washington, they do not weight their GPA, so we want to be equitable amongst all of our applicants, and we do look at all applications on that unweighted 4.0 scale. Now the personal achievements and characteristics, that's when we are looking more at that student as an individual. So looking at their activities and experiences, not only things like clubs and sports and leadership positions, but also taking a look at if they have a job or maybe they have family responsibilities and they're helping out, taking care of younger siblings or grandparents. Those are things that we also value and like to see on the application as well. And then again, we do have the 2 essay components as well. So we encourage students to really utilize those spaces to let us know about things that we're not getting from other aspects or other parts of their application. Remind students that if there have been any maybe bumps in their academics or things that may have affected them that they didn't write about in the personal statements or the essay components, there's also the additional comments or additional space where they can let us know about anything else that's important or relevant to them. So really encourage them to use that space. With this year and COVID, there is a space in the coalition under the personal information where they can tell us a little bit more about those circumstances. Again, if anything important or things that they feel is relevant for us to know, they can tell us about it in those additional spaces. And again, that's found in the UW components section. So, with the holistic review, we want to make sure students are not only going to be set up for academic success, but are going to be a good fit on the campus as well. Now, a couple key dates here, just a few that I do want to point out. Again, September 1st is when that UW specific section will open up in the coalition. November 15th is our one and only application deadline. There is no early action. There is no early decision. It is just the one deadline of November 15th. So, if you have students who are planning on applying, please make sure to get their application in by that date. And then January 15th is our FAFSA and WASFA priority deadline. So I know that opens up tomorrow. I can't believe it's already October, but that priority deadline is January 15th. So students have a good chunk of time to get that in. And then as a reminder, our notification period for freshmen is March 1st through 15th. So that's when we release all of our freshman decisions. So you can assure students that by end of day on March 15th, they will receive a decision from the University of Washington. Now, giving a snapshot here of the cost of attendance, we realize that financial fit is a huge consideration for a lot of students and families. So we do want to be transparent in terms of what those costs may look like. So again, you can see here tuition as well as some of those other estimated expenses. That only number that's set is tuition and mandatory fees. Of course, everything else is going to be based on the student's lifestyle choices. So keep that in mind as you are looking at those numbers. Again, FAFSA opens up tomorrow, October 1st, and that priority deadline is January 15th. Now, in terms of scholarships, for Washington State residents, we do have a couple things that we review for. The Husky Promise, this is our need-based financial program. So the Husky Promise is going to be based off of information in the FAFSA. It's going to be based on the estimated family contribution. And if students are eligible for the Husky Promise, they will have tuition covered for 4 years. The Presidential Scholarship, this is automatically considered for Washington residents when they submit their UW application. This is a highly selective scholarship. This year we only awarded it to 8 students. So it does cover $10,000 per year, renewable up to 4 years. And students, again, are automatically considered when they submit their UW application. And really with the Presidential Scholarship, we are looking for students who have had outstanding leadership demonstration or commitment to community or their school. So again, we'll automatically consider students for that when they submit. And then the purple and gold here is for our US non-residents. Again, just know that students are automatically considered for that when they submit their UW application. Let's see, last thing here, a couple resources. So with everything going on due to COVID, we are not offering any on-campus tours. And as an admissions counseling staff, we are not physically visiting any schools this fall or attending any fairs. I'm sure many of you have already experienced this, but we have set up quite a few resources for our prospective students to engage with us. So we are offering online information sessions. We are offering those Monday through Friday at 4 o'clock Pacific time. On Wednesdays, they are live. So if you have a student who's tuning in today, they will get to see me this afternoon doing that session. For transfer students, we do have our Transfer Thursdays. as well. This summer, we also started a Washington Wednesday series, and we've covered a multitude of topics ranging from how to fill out the coalition application to how to write effective UW essays. We've covered topics from the honors program to changes in reviewing for test scores. So all of those are available. We do have our last Washington Wednesday session today. It is going to be a session covering similarities and differences of all 3 UW campuses. So if you have students who are interested in all 3 or questions about what the differences are, tonight's session, that's going to be 5 to 6 p.m. I will also be doing that. So if you have students come into that, they'll see me there tonight. But we do have all of our sessions recorded, so students and counselors and parents can access those online. We've set up a couple different tours available, videos for students to engage in. We also have a chat with a tour guide feature. We, of course, always recommend that students reach out to their admissions counselor, and our Find Your Counselor tool on our website will provide information as to who their admissions counselor is, so they're welcome to do that, as well as set up an appointment if they have any questions. And then I didn't add this one, I forgot to add it on here, but we are offering application webinars throughout the fall. So this is something that we've been doing for a couple years, but we'll go through some of those more important parts of the coalition application and help guide students through that, as well as have an admissions counselor available to answer any questions. So those take place on a variety of days, typically from 4 to 5 p.m., and students can register for those online. All right, I know I breezed through that information pretty quickly. I think there is a couple questions now, so I'm happy to take some of those if anybody has any questions.
Awesome, thank you, Kelsey. You know, I think the only question we have, you did cover it, but maybe one more time would be great. We had a student wondering about grade point average in terms of being accepted to the University of Washington.
Yeah, so we don't have a minimum in terms of GPA or test scores. I guess test scores not really a factor too much anymore. But in terms, we do have an admitted 50% profile. So looking at where admitted students have been, that range is, I believe, a 3.72 to about a 3.94. I could be a little bit off on those numbers, but again, it's the admitted 50%. So we do really want to encourage students to think that that's, you know, 25% of students admitted received lower than those ranges, 25% of students admitted received above those ranges. So we're really looking, with that holistic review, we're looking at so many different factors that it isn't just based on the GPA. You know, there's lots of things that we're considering in that process.
And we have a few more questions rolling in. So first and foremost, this is an important one. Where can students access a virtual tour to see more of the campus?
Yeah, so all of our tours and information are available on our website. So if you just go to the Office of Admissions website, which is admit.washington.edu, there'll be a bar at the top, and one of the tabs is Visit, and then underneath that there's sections for online tours, as well as online events as well. So a lot of different ways that students can really explore and engage. And again, we realize that being remote and not necessarily being in person, we want to make sure we're still providing all of that information to students.
Awesome, and I'll make sure to connect with Kelsey after we record this, so that link can go up with the recording as well. So you all will have access to that link. And then one more question. Is there a veterinary program at the University of Washington?
Great question. So I will say I'm only pretty versed in undergraduate programs, and there's unfortunately not an undergraduate veterinary program. There might be a graduate level program, but I I'm not entirely sure if UW has one, but for students who might be considering going in terms of a veterinary track, we do have a pre-health advisor, so someone to really help students prepare for that next application process. And so that's a really good tool for students to utilize, is getting in touch with that advisor, making sure that they're completing the required prerequisites for any graduate level programs that they're considering, and then also having exposure to experiences that might help them decide if, going veterinary is going to be the best route for them, or if maybe, medical school is going to be the best fit for them, or whatever it is that their end goal is. So really want to try and make sure that students have those experiences early on so that they know what to anticipate as they're thinking about those grad programs.
Awesome, thank you. So a lot more questions coming in about specific degrees and what's available at the University of Washington. I'm going to go ahead and encourage students to reach out to Kelsey after this presentation or do some digging on the University of Washington website. I know all the information that you're asking for is definitely there, and Kelsey or myself are more than willing to help you find it if you're unable to. So thank you all so much for being with us today, and a special thanks to Kelsey for all of your time and information. You can find this recording and our future virtual visit dates at gearup.wa.gov. Reach out to your Gear Up coordinator for more information, and otherwise we will see you next time.